Hello again. I picked up this book in a charity shop the other day. It is an atlas of British history, which was published in 1993 by Martin Gilbert, the guy that wrote the authorised biography of Winston Churchill, very famous historian. 1993 was just 30 years ago. But this book describes a country so different to that which exists today that it might as well have been published in 1893. There is a section on immigration and asylum seekers. I don't know if people can see it here. It's headed Asylum in 1985 to 1992. I thought I might share some of the figures with viewers because by today's standards they are almost beyond belief. This is a map which details claims for asylum in this country between 1985 and 1992. In the course of those 7 years, how many people from Nigeria were granted asylum, do you suppose, in this country? I will tell you, it was 10 over the whole of those 7 years. In other words, it averaged out less than one Nigerian asylum seeker a year. What about Pakistan, from which we have many asylum seekers these days? Well, that's 200 in 7 years, which works out about 30 a year. That's actually less than one a week. In 1990, a grand total of 2,400 people were granted asylum in this country. Last year, the figure was around 24,000. In other words, of course, there's 10 times as many people being granted asylum now as there were 30 years ago. Then there is immigration. It says here that in 1990, more than 28,000 individuals were permitted to immigrate to Britain. Last year, of course, net immigration to the United Kingdom was over 600,000, to say 20 times higher than it was in 1990. The countries from which immigrants came are also very interesting. For example, from Australia and New Zealand, there were 5,170. United States, 3,660. European Community, 1,700. Canada, 850. Eastern Europe, 630. In other words, roughly half the immigrants to Britain 30 years ago were white. Now on this page, there's something about religions, how many members of different religions there were in this country 30 years ago. In 1993, there were 1.2 million Muslims and 300 mosques in Britain. According to the 2021 census, there are now 3,868,133 Muslims in the country, together with 1,500 mosques. In other words, in 1,000 years or so, up to 1993, 1.2 million Muslims had somehow arrived in this country. In the 30 years since then, the number has increased threefold. In 30 years, we have somehow acquired over 2.5 million more Muslims. What do you think the situation will be in another 30 years? Do you think that the number of Muslims will have increased threefold again? It's looking that way, the way that immigration and asylum is operating. If so, that would mean that in 30 years' time we would have 10 or 11 million Muslims here. It is books like this which nobody bothers to publish anymore because, of course, everything may be found on the internet. However, text on the internet may be edited and manipulated. You won't even know it's been done. whereas a book like this has been immune to tampering in that way. I think I should explore the figures found here to make another video in the near future, because immigration is not the only surprising change we've seen in this country since 1993. I think a lot of us have actually forgotten just how very different Britain is now from what it was 30 years ago.